Darlene, Halloween, and the Great Chicago Fire. There was a Great Chicago Fire. Let's see if this is some version of how that happened. Looks like it probably will be. Darlene, Halloween, and the Great Chicago Fire. The story of Darlene, Halloween, and the Great Chicago Fire began a long time ago in a pumpkin patch just south of the city where Darlene and her family of field mice lived. Murphy the witch and her nasty cat Jacko lived in a hut nearby. Everyone in Chicago was afraid of Murphy's evil spells. However, it was her magic potions that worried Darlene, because the main ingredient was field mouse, and Murphy preferred Halloween field mice. One October afternoon, Murphy stirred up a fresh kettle of magic brew. She threw in 3 moldy toadstools, 2 packs of sugar substitute, and a partridge, but not the pear tree. "We don't want too much fiber in it," she cackled. "And now to add a little mouse," Murphy said. But to her surprise, the can was empty. Says Uncle Ben's mice. "Oh no," Murphy groaned. "Jacko, quick, go borrow a cup of mice from the neighbors." Jacko rushed outside before he remembered they had no neighbors. "Ah, rats," he said. "Now I'll have to try and catch a mouse." Later, near the edge of the field, he found 5 young mice playing volleyball with pumpkin seeds. He took out his official book of Chicago mice. "Aha, those are Darlene's grandkids," he purred. "There's Kyle and Kara. Those red ones are Kason and Jacinda. And the one in diapers, that's got to be little David. They should punch up Murphy's brew nicely." Says Halloween, Kara. Use in stews and brews. Spicy, gives a kick to any recipe. Jacko pounced on the mice and stuffed them into his cup. "Help!" they yelled. "Shh!" Jacko said. "Be quiet as a mouse, you mice." "Scat, cat!" Gene Frogger croaked from a lily pad. Jacko stuck out his tongue, then hightailed it back to Murphy's place. Darlene arrived home moments later. "Hurry! Hop on!" Gene shouted. Jacko just took the kids. A couple of leaps and bounds later, they were at Murphy's hut. Darlene quietly opened Murphy's dirty window. "Shh," Darlene said. "Let's see what they are up to." "This cloud potion can turn you into a soft, fluffy white cloud," Murphy said, "or a black, stormy thundercloud. But without a mouse mixed in, it turns you into nothing but a huffy-puffy wind," Murphy said. She sniffed the ooey-gooey brew. "Time to add the mouse." Darlene quickly grabbed a small pumpkin and threw it as hard as she could. It sailed under Murphy's brown bat and popped the witch right on the nose. "Strike!" Darlene yelled. Murphy spun around and fell into the bubbling brew. Splat, kersplash, clank, boink, ouchie, ouch, ouch. Holy cow, that was a strike. "A little help. Ock." "To bears. Uh-oh." As Jacko searched for Murphy in the pot, Darlene and Gene quickly freed the grandkids and all of the other animals. "Uh-oh," Jacko said. "Murphy melted. That means there's too much witch in the potion. Run!" The potion exploded. The roof blew off of Murphy's hut, and a mean, swirling wind shot southward. "That's a wild witch wind," Darlene said, "and it's after us. Come on, kids." The mice hopped on Gene's back. "Run, Gene, run!" Darlene yelled. The frog bounded away toward the city with the wind so close it was nipping at David's diapers. Gene took a quick left on DeKoven Street. The wind missed the turn and sped by. The witch wind quickly spun around and searched for the mice. It uprooted trees and knocked over fences. It blew so hard that the Chicago River changed directions, and Indiana was scooted 3 inches to the east. Meanwhile, Jacko snuck along, sniffing the air for a trace of the mice. My sniffer tells me that they are in Mrs. O'Leary's barn, Jacko said. He opened the door and slipped inside. The door slammed shut. Scary orange faces with fiery eyes popped out of the darkness. "Eow!" Jacko howled. Lulu, the O'Leary's cow, awoke. Her sleepy moos mixed with the spooky boos from the mice. The scaredy cat raced toward the door. As Jacko tried to get out, the wind tried to get in. They hit the barn door at the same time. "Oh!" the wind howled. Jacko flew backwards, smashing several scary-faced pumpkin lanterns. The hay burst into flames. "Fire! Fire! Fire!" Lulu mooed. The angry wind blew open the door and flew in, only to have its magic potion vapor trails catch fire. "Yow!" shrieked the bad breeze. It fled from the barn, circling the city in a big loop and dropping fireballs everywhere. Flames quickly spread from building to building. "It looks like there will be a hot time in the old town tonight," Lulu said. Darlene pushed the grandkids outside. "What about the cat?" the grandkids whined. "He's gone with the wind," she said. "Those jack-o'-lanterns scared the hairballs out of him." A few days later, the mayor knocked on Darlene's door. "We brought you candy and a new trash can as a reward for getting rid of Chicago's last witch," he said. "Thanks," Darlene replied. "Oh, and that fire you started burned down a third of Chicago. Here's the bill." "Gee, thanks," Darlene groaned. Weeks later, as Jean and Darlene were nibbling a few pieces of the candy, someone knocked on the door again. "I hope it's not another reward," Jean said. "Who's there?" Darlene called. "Third truck cart," came the strange response. On the front porch sat a slightly burned sack. "It looks like someone is inside," Jean whispered. Darlene grinned. She quickly carved a jack-o'-lantern from a giant pumpkin. "Okay," Darlene said. Jean let the cat out of the bag. "Gotcha!" Jacko shouted, but when he saw the fiery pumpkin, he screamed and skedaddled into the night. "I knew it was Jacko in the sack," Darlene said, "because truck is witch cat talk for give me something good to eat." The next afternoon, the mayor declared October 31st Halloween Day. Chicagoans carved jack-o'-lanterns and told scary stories about witches and cats. Kids knocked on doors and shouted, "Trick or truck it." Adults laughed and dropped candy in their sacks. That all happened a long time ago, but on dark Halloween nights when the wind is blowing, folks claim a black cat can be seen wandering through Chicago. They say if you listen closely, you can hear his words echo through the streets. "Trick, trick, the cat meows, and his words echo back, "Trick or treat, trick or treat, trick or treat." That's that story. And now here's facts about the Great Chicago Fire. On Sunday, October 8th, 1871, about 9 o'clock at night, a fire began in a barn owned by Catherine and Patrick O'Leary. Monday, about midnight, tired firemen, with the help of a little rain, finally put out the fire. The fire destroyed $222 million in property, including 17,500 buildings. Of the 300,000 residents, 90,000 were left homeless. The few buildings in the path of the fire that survived were St. Michael's Church, St. Ignatius College Preparatory School, St. Patrick's Church, the Water Tower, and Holy Family Church, which was the church the O'Learys attended. Oddly enough, the O'Leary house also survived, thanks to a favorable wind. A newspaper story said that the O'Leary's cow started the fire when it kicked over a lantern. Many people believed it, and a legend began. However, in 1893, the man who wrote the story admitted that he had made it up because he thought it would make colorful copy. A board of police and fire chiefs interviewed 51 witnesses, but could not determine a cause of the fire. Since then, people have suggested many possible reasons for the Great Chicago Fire, but no one has ever been able to prove who or what started it. While some people wondered how the fire began, others rolled up their sleeves and went to work. Fires still smoldered as lumber for rebuilding arrived by the trainload. By 1875, hardly a trace of the destruction could be seen. In 1956, the remaining structures on the original O'Leary property were torn down for the construction of the Chicago Fire Academy, a training facility for Chicago firefighters. On October 7, 1997, the Chicago City Council approved a resolution that absolved Mrs. O'Leary's cow of all blame for the Great Chicago Fire. However, these lines from a song written shortly after the fire by Theodore M. Metz and Joseph Haydn are still sung by children today. Late one night when we were all in bed, Mrs. O'Leary lit a lantern in the shed. Her cow kicked it over, then winked her eye and said, "There'll be a hot time in the old town tonight. Fire, fire, fire." That was Darlene, Halloween, and the Great Chicago Fire.